Three, two, one.
Hello and happy Sunday. Week 2 of the NFL season is upon us. It actually kickstarted on Thursday night. So I am back previewing the rest of the Sunday and Monday slate, including a Monday night doubleheader. I'll have games of the week. I'll have my sit-start recommendations. And of course, we will do picks against the spread. But first, let's look back at that game that already took place. Thursday Night Football was a good one as the Green Bay Packers hosted the Washington Commanders. Those are two teams that got wins in week 1 of the NFL season. The Packers moved to 2-0 with a 27-18 victory over the Commanders. But it was a costly night for both teams. Jaden Reed of the Packers on a play that ended up being wiped out due to penalty broke his collarbone. He will be out for several weeks. That's going to be an interesting situation. We saw Dontavian Wicks step up a little bit, had 4 receptions on Thursday night. 0 receptions for Matthew Golden. He would seem to be the number one target that they are looking to get to step up. But so far, he's kind of been behind in the pecking order through 2 weeks. Will he have a chance to step up here? They will kind of need him. Tucker Kraft, the huge explosion, had more than 100 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Love still looking pretty good. Josh Jacobs still running very strong. Packers 2-0, 2 home wins. Now they're going to be on the road for 4 of their next 5, including the next 2 in a row. That's going to be an interesting situation, but they're at Cleveland, at Dallas. Not a super hard schedule, a good start for them. The Commanders also suffered, not only losing, but they lost a couple of players. Probably the most notable for fantasy is Austin Eckler, who tore his Achilles tendon. He is out for the season and perhaps longer. You know, when you get up into the 30 range for a running back, you're getting closer to the end than the beginning. We had already noted that he had lost some of that explosiveness and burst. That will further deteriorate with having torn an Achilles tendon. They also traded Brian Robinson Jr. just before the season, so that means it's Bill Krosky-Merritt, the 7th-round draft pick, Chris Rodriguez, and Jeremy McNichols, unless they can go get somebody else. That's kind of an interesting backfield situation for the team. They still haven't really gotten a lot of their passing game going. It was a slightly better but still underwhelming appearance from Terry McLaurin in week 2. Commanders 1-1. Not a bad start, but they definitely have some work to do. Well, that was a wrap on Thursday Night Football. What about the games that are coming up? You know what? It's time for Games of the Week. You know how this works. I pick my favorite game from each of the viewing windows on Sunday and Monday, and there is actually a choice on Monday, so it's not just a default. But from the early window, for me, it's the Chicago Bears of the Detroit Lions. Both teams 0-1. Both of them had a tough divisional loss in week 1. The Lions losing on the road in Green Bay. The Bears losing at home against Minnesota. Both these teams come in really needing a win. You cannot afford to start 0-2, especially with 2 divisional losses. The Lions, of course, trying to get their offense back on track, will be facing their former offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who is now the head coach for Chicago. Chicago did some nice things in week 1. But they would definitely like to see more. In the late window, there is really one major game that draws your eyes, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a rematch of the Super Bowl. The Eagles came in and won the Thursday night opener against the Dallas Cowboys. The Chiefs went down to Brazil and lost on that opening Friday night in Sao Paulo. So they are 0-1. They are desperate for a win now already at home. Xavier Worthy has been ruled out. Rashee Rice still suspended. So they are definitely shorthanded. The Eagles will be without tight end Dallas Goedert, but they still have Jalen Hurts. They still have Saquon Barkley. They still have a lot of the pieces that kind of rolled over the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. If they get off to a 2-0 start and the Chiefs start 0-2, that could be a big hole for Kansas City. The Sunday night game, second week in a row, we get a primetime game for J.J. McCarthy, his second primetime start, this time at home against Michael Penix and the Atlanta Falcons, a couple quarterbacks who were drafted together, squaring off, a couple quarterbacks who met in the national championship game for the collegiate ranks 2 years ago, squaring off here. The Falcons come in 0-1, a heartbreaking home loss. They have also decided to bench their kicker, Younghoe Koo, for a new kicker. See how that works out for them. Minnesota, meanwhile, still no Jordan Addison, but J.J. McCarthy looked good in the fourth quarter. In the first 3 quarters of his first start, he looked lost. So which McCarthy are we going to see? Also, can they get a little more out of the running game? Jordan Mason looked like the better runner. Aaron Jones looked like the more explosive playmaker. Is that kind of the roles they are going to settle into here? Justin Jefferson on the cusp of being the youngest ever for 500 catches when he catches his first pass tonight. I think that's going to be a good one. Monday night, there is a true Monday night doubleheader, one starting at 7 Eastern, one starting at 10 Eastern. The one that I'm highlighting is the early game that is also going to be on ABC, the 1-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 0-1 Houston Texans. The nightcap features the Chargers and the Raiders, but this is the game that I'm more intrigued to see. Both teams were in the playoffs last year. Buccaneers, a great come-from-behind win on the road in Atlanta in week 1. They are on the road again. The Texans, meanwhile, really stymied by the Los Angeles Rams, especially couldn't get their offense going. Will they be able to do a little bit better on offense here? Tampa Bay, not a good team to run against. Can they get that pass offense going? Can they get that offensive line to gel? Those are a lot of questions I have. Tampa Bay, meanwhile, they won. It was not the most incredible performance. Really loved what I saw from rookie Emeka Egbuka. Looking forward to seeing him again with Mike Evans. This is a good defense in Houston, so it may be a lower scoring Monday night game, but that one had the most intrigue for me. Well, that's the games that we can't wait to see. What about some of the lineup suggestions? Well, you know how this works. I pick one sit and one start from each of the positions. I'm looking for a top 12 finish at quarterback and tight end, a top 24 finish at running back and wide receiver. Before we dive into this week's picks, we'll talk about last week. My starts last week, Drake May, who finished as QB 18, was a miss. Josh Jacobs finished as running back 18. That was a hit. Cortland Sutton finished as wide receiver 12. That was a hit. George Kittle, tight end 10. That was a hit. He was tight end 10 despite going out with injury. 3-1 on my start suggestions. My sits, Jordan Love finished as QB 17. That was a hit. Jaylen Warren snuck in at RB 19 thanks to his passing work. That was a miss. Calvin Ridley, wide receiver 56. Oof. That was a hit. But Dalton Kincaid, incredible volume, also got a touchdown, finished as tight end 4. That was a miss, but I'm not mad at that because I roster him in a few places. But 2-2 on the sit record, overall 5-3. Let's see how we can do this week. First, let's turn over to quarterbacks. And my start this week is Justin Herbert. I may not have picked this as the Monday Night Football game I was most excited to see, but I think Justin Herbert's going to be good. He got off to a fiery start in Brazil in week 1. He threw for 3 touchdowns and 318 yards against the Chiefs. He gets another divisional game in week 2 here in Las Vegas. The Raiders held Drake May to QB2 numbers last week, but I like Herbert to keep slinging it and start 2-0. I think Herbert will have a little better success. Meanwhile, my sit is Daniel Jones. Look, I get it. He finished as QB3 in week 1 and put up 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 1 in the air. It was surprising. He should certainly be rostered, and I think he might have upside this season. But in week 2, though he's at home, he's facing a smothering Broncos defense. I think that's a little bit different than what he saw from Miami. I don't know that he'll look like 2024 again, but I don't think he finishes top 12. So that is quarterbacks. How about the ball carriers? Well, My start is Christian McCaffrey, and we went into week one trepidatious about whether he was healthy, but he finished as running back 3. He had 22 carries. He caught 9 passes on 10 targets. It was a remarkable workload for him. And now heading into week 2, he might be the healthiest of the 49ers offensive stars. I think it's wheels up again, especially with Mac Jones starting at quarterback. He is a start for me. My sit, meanwhile, is Jerome Ford. Look, he was a solid option for the Browns the last 2 seasons, but we thought that might continue in 2025. Still, he had only 8 yards on 6 carries in week 1, catching 1 pass for -3 yards. This week, the Browns face the Ravens, which isn't great, and maybe welcoming Quinshon Judkins. They actually are welcoming Quinshon Judkins. We don't know how many touches he's going to get, but he will be a factor. And even without Judkins, last week, Dylan Sampson and Raheem Sanders contributed and looked good. Dylan Sampson looked like the best of the running backs. I think that will continue this week. I think with Sampson and Judkins getting run, Ford is just out of my lineup. Well, what about the pass catchers? Well, at wide receiver, I'm firing up CeeDee Lamb, and I know you're saying, well, isn't that obvious? Look, if you catch 7 passes for 110 yards and it's considered a disappointment, I don't know what to say. When you're CeeDee Lamb, you have a couple of big drops. Word came out he was already working the Jugs gun Friday morning. He also has some nits to pick with the Giants, who they are facing this week, and some players in the secondary. Let's just say I think that he is going to come out and want to make a statement, and I want that statement to happen while he's in my lineup. My sit, meanwhile, is Nico Collins. I like the talent. I like the potential. He saw 5 targets in week 1, but he only caught 3 for 25 yards. This Texans offense struggled mightily. They only posted 9 points against the Rams. This team has been in a funk for a while. I think this Monday battle with the Buccaneers won't really make it any easier. I'm just wary of the Texans offense at the moment. I think I'll have better options. Nico Collins, probably still a flex wide receiver 3 range, but I don't think he cracks top 24. Let's move on to tight end. This one got a little bit tricky trying to think of something outside the box. But my start this week is going to be Jonnu Smith of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He saw 6 targets in week 1, catching 5 passes and a touchdown in the Steelers win against the Jets. They traded for Smith. He knows Arthur Smith's offense, and he seems to have a solid role. Now he's playing a Seahawks team that, while they only gave up 17 points in week 1, they still managed to give up 2 touchdowns to tight ends. I like Smith this week as the Steelers open their home season. My sit is Darren Waller. Look, he retired before the 24-4 season. Yesterday, it came out that he was going to be out again this week. I don't know why he came out of retirement because he doesn't seem like he's ready to play. He couldn't play in the preseason. This is the 2nd week in a row that he has been out for them. Now a hip issue. Even if he does play later this season, I don't see him being a factor. This feels like a train wreck of a move at present. If you were rostering Darren Waller, especially in redraft, I'd be dropping him because I think the Dolphins in general look like a mess. This isn't great for a player who's had more than a full year to rehab, to have come back and to be dealing with injuries they can't get out on the field. I just think this was a big swing and a miss. Well, that'll do it for my sit-start suggestions. Now let's end with a little bit of picks against the spread. I was 8-8 in week 1. Not incredible, but it takes a little bit of time sometimes to get a feel for some of these games. There were some surprising upsets. There were some teams that we knew were going to win that didn't quite live up to the spread. But I'm already 1-0 for this week, up to 9-8 total, as I picked the Green Bay Packers -3.5. So what about the rest of the games? I'm taking the Jacksonville Jaguars +3.5 against Cincinnati. I think the Bengals will win, but I don't know that the Bengals are in dominating form yet. I took the Dallas Cowboys -5.5 over the New York Giants. The Giants look bad in week 1, only posting 6 points against the Commanders. The Cowboys actually scored 20 points against a pretty stout Eagles defense. I know Deron Bland is out, but I think CeeDee Lamb's going to want to make a statement. I think the Cowboys want to make a statement at home. This one could be a little bit of a laugher. I took the Chicago Bears plus 5.5 in Detroit. I already said I think the Lions will get the win here. I think they need the win, but I think this is going to be a tight game. Both these teams a little bit desperate. I took the Los Angeles Rams minus 5.5 at the Tennessee Titans. That Rams defense was very good. The offense sort of coming together. They're getting it together, but the Titans, their offensive front was not great. They're very young at wide receiver. I think that the Rams can get at least a touchdown victory. I took the New England Patriots plus 1.5 against the Miami Dolphins. Look, I know the Dolphins are favored. They're at home. They looked horrendous in week one. They've had player-only meetings. They've tried to get rally. They're psyching themselves up. All that's good, but it doesn't change how I feel. And even without Christian Gonzalez, I think the Patriots are a little bit of a better team and a more explosive offense potentially. And so I'm taking them to get the win. I took the San Francisco 49ers minus 4.5 in New Orleans. I know Mac Jones is starting, but I still have Christian McCaffrey. They still have some good weapons, and I still just don't think the Saints are a great team. I think the 49ers can get the victory. I took the Buffalo Bills minus 6.5 in New York against the Jets. Look, Buffalo put up 41 points against the Ravens. I know the Jets offense was cooking a little bit too. The Bills defense definitely banged up. Now they're without Ed Oliver. This could be a fun game, but I think the Bills are going to get the win. I took the Pittsburgh Steelers minus 2.5 against the Seahawks at home. Both these teams allegedly have good defense, although Pittsburgh's didn't show up in week one. I just think the Steelers will be able to get the win at home. I took the Ravens minus 12.5 at home against the Cleveland Browns. You don't love playing the Ravens any week, but you really don't want to play the Ravens a week after an embarrassing and costly loss in week one. I think this will be an angry and psyched up Ravens team. I think they're just, quite frankly, a lot better than the Cleveland Browns. I took the Denver Broncos minus 2.5 on the road in Indianapolis. The Broncos offense was very turnover plagued, didn't look incredible, but that defense already looks smothering. I like the Colts. I like what I saw in week one. I think they might be a little friskier than I thought, but I think Denver can get the win here. I took the Arizona Cardinals minus 6.5 at home against the Panthers. The Panthers struggled mightily in week one. Can they get back on track? Not easy to do on the road. This is their second straight road game, this time going to the West Coast. Cardinals look solid in week one, got a 7-point win against the Saints. I think they can do at least the same at home. I took the Eagles minus 1.5 in Kansas City. It is quite a testament to where these two teams are at that the Eagles are favored on the road in Kansas City. But I just think they are the better team. I took the Atlanta Falcons plus 4.5 on the road in Minnesota. I think Minnesota will win the game at home, but I think this one going to be a close game, a field goal, probably the difference. I took Tampa Bay plus 2.5 on the road against the Texans. As I mentioned, I'm weary of this Texans offense. I think Tampa Bay will get the win and start out 2-0. And the last game of the week, I took the Los Angeles Chargers minus 3.5 on the road against the Las Vegas Raiders. They say Brock Bowers is going to play, but he definitely got banged up. I liked what I saw from the Chargers. I liked the way that they just handled and dominated Kansas City. I think that they can get a win here and get out to a 2-0 start, which is a bad beat for me as a Denver Broncos fan in the AFC West. But the Chargers look better than I was expecting. I think it's going to be a solid start for them. Well, that's my picks against the spread. That is all I have for you here for week 2 of the NFL season. Things get kicked off pretty quick here. We are diving into the season, the Monday night doubleheader, one of a couple of Monday night doubleheaders we'll have this year. A lot of exciting things. Week 1 was wild. Will we see some wild finishes this week too? I think that we will, but it's just nice that football is back. So that'll do it for me this week, and I will see you next Sunday to preview week 3.